We are live. You're watching the Merged Marketing Podcast. You're listening to the Merged Marketing Podcast. And today we're going to touch on 3 simple strategies to generating millions in revenue. My guest on today's show is Dylan Vanas. Dylan, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, man? Good to be here.
Dylan's coming to us from Las Vegas. Canadian, I was going to say former, but he's not former. He's a Canadian living in Las Vegas. The first question I got to ask, Canucks or Golden Knights?
Oh, well, hey, I grew up with Canucks. I've seen way more Canucks games in person than Golden Knights games. But hockey's hockey, like whenever you can get a game and see it, like it's the most fun thing. And I don't think the other Las Vegans appreciate hockey like I do. I'm there and dude, I bring my Canadian spirit, and then everyone's just sitting there like enjoying the show. It's a totally different thing.
It's a show. It's exactly it. Down there, it's a show where it's like here in Toronto, it's like, man, this is like our life.
It's life.
You know? like we had a really rough night last night. It was brutal and a lot of cursing happening at the TV, I'm sure throughout Toronto area. We got smashed, but we're used to it now. Every single year in the playoffs, it's like we're going to make it to the end of the first round and that'll be it.
Better than not making it at all, like the Canucks seem to have been for the last 2 decades.
Yeah, you've had a bad shake recently, but anyways, what can you do? So we're not here to talk about hockey today. I'm sure we can carve out an entire hour to talk about that topic, but we're going to talk about, strategies to generating millions in revenue. But more importantly, it all comes back to your personal brand and building that personal brand. And there's no better guest than Dylan to talk about this topic, who's amassed 137,000 followers on Instagram, 116,000 followers on TikTok. Let's start at that point there. What can you attribute to the growth on those platforms?
So, look, we're in the personal branding. Like that's what I do in my agency. And one of the things is like, there's 2 aspects of building your brand online. One is the authority, like the social proof aspect. And the other one is like the actual driving in leads and buyers for your products. And so, what I used to do, I don't really do much of it anymore, but we used to run these giveaway campaigns where it's like, hey, like go follow these, 25 accounts, you'll be entered to win a MacBook. And then like, that's how I initially built the following. And the truth be told, that's how 99% of people in like the business sector, like, do you really think there's like millions of people that want to go follow Grant Cardone on Instagram there, or like Gary Vee or whoever it is? The majority of people use these methods at some time in the past. And so that's kind of like how I established the first like 30 to 40,000 followers of like social proof. And then from there, it's just about creating high quality content that people actually want to hit that follow button and like engage and see what you're actually creating. The problem though is like, if you have 237 followers, and even if your content's amazing, like first thing people do is like go to the page, like, is this guy real? Is this guy not real? And then like, they're going to decide whether they follow you or not based on that. So unfortunately, in today's day and age, you do need a baseline level of social proof.
Is there a numerical, or is there a number you would put on that social proof? Like, is it 10,000? Is it 20,000? Is it 100,000? What is that number?
1 billion. No.
Yeah, followers.
So baseline level of social proof for most platforms is 10,000 followers. For YouTube, it's 1,000 subscribers because it's harder to get. There is like additional tier once you hit 100, once you hit 1 million. But the thing is most people, at least in like the business sector, there's no way you're going to get 1 million people to follow you. So if you have over 1 million, it's like people look at it as like, I mean, at least I do. And I'm like, okay, that's not authentic. So in order to keep it authentic and keep it real, like just get over 10,000, do whatever you got to do to get there. And then from there, you can build organically, because that's, that organic growth really is the most important thing.
So when we talk about the giveaway campaign, if we can just touch on that for a second, when you're starting out, you're growing your account to 10,000 followers. And this is just like, hey, follow me for an opportunity to win a MacBook Pro. And this was it. And you basically probably leveraged other influencers to get the word out about this giveaway, right?
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds crazy simple, but basically the way it works is I used to facilitate some of these campaigns where we'd go work with an influencer and we'd basically have them give away like a MacBook or like a bunch of makeup if it's like a female influencer or whatever it is. And it'd be, hey, go follow this account. And we'd tag one of the accounts we own. And then all the accounts that account's following. In most cases, it'd be anywhere from like 20 to 50. And you'll be entered to win. And that was how we facilitated the campaigns. There's still people who do them. And so like, if you can, it's not that hard to find. You can just Google it. They're called megas. And basically just Google and you could see people willing to do that. We don't do it. I only focus on like high quality stuff that's going to drive like real organic growth now. But again, there is like something to be said about that initial 10K.
I like one thing that you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, Dylan. You talked about the difference between doing the lead generation and the personal growth, because I think a lot of business owners out there and entrepreneurs intertwine the two and they think it's one of the same, but it's not.
Yeah, definitely. Like the thing is, you go into LeadCon and speaking on stage, or, I'm actually hosting a TEDx event later this year, and I'm getting a whole bunch of, awesome people to come speak at it. These are actions that build like real followers, right? And podcast too, and creating content. And so with content, you're going to funnel people into your ecosystem who could eventually buy your stuff. And that's the cool thing. But simply just like being online, like, what's the purpose? Every action I do, I think first, like, okay, what's the actual result I'm trying to create with this action? And then we can reverse engineer the steps that we're going to take in order to actually execute and make it happen. So in the name of organic lead generation, I live in Vegas, so I look at it like slot machines. If you're playing a slot machine, you put a quarter in, it costs you a quarter, you pull the thing and you hope to get rich. With social media, you post one piece of content. By the way, social media platforms, they have literally reverse engineered dopamine and understood how to actually make you addicted to the platforms. So it's just like playing a slot machine. But the thing is if you increase your quantity of content, your likelihood of winning that slot machine is going to significantly increase. So in today's age right now, it's about quantity. And that's how you can actually build a real audience, is just post a crap load of stuff.
Yeah, it's touching on a social dilemma there for a second, right? Like
yeah, exactly.
Funny. We actually previously had a psychologist on our podcast to break down that movie. It's a great movie. If you haven't seen it yet, check out The Social Dilemma, talking about dopamine hits and social media. It's awesome. But I find that, when it comes to creating content for platforms, specifically Instagram and TikTok, are you putting the same content on both of those platforms? Or are you making some customizations to it, posting natively? How does that process work for you?
So there's the formula of like what is the formula for virality? And it's pretty simple. The thing is though, like what I'm doing and what I know I should be doing isn't always aligned. Like I'm busy, you're busy. Like, I've got a team that makes my content. Doesn't mean I can be doing the best thing. So like, I'll tell you what I do and then I'll tell you the ideal. What I do right now is I document everything I do. I'm recording this right now. You're recording this. Like, look, we're going to take this content. It's going to get posted. The thing is like everyone's doing that now. Like Talking Head, Alex Hormozy kind of rode the wave, got a little bit of attention from it. But like, if you do what everyone else does, you get what they got, which isn't very much. And so if you want a lot more, you got to like expand outside the horizon. And so what I want to do, and I'm like trying to carve out time to make this happen, and what I know is working right now is content that's outside, literally just anywhere that's not sitting in what could be this could be my mom's basement. I told you it's an office. It could be my mom's basement for all you know. So it's like, so like go outside. There's one guy right now. He's gosh, I forget his name, but he's in the health space. He's just picking up a little bit. He's like an older guy, like nothing too special about him. He's not like a clinical psychologist or like a dietitian or a doctor. He's just some dude. He goes to a grocery store. He holds up a piece of bread in the grocery store and says, "Here's the 3 things wrong with white bread." And then he goes over to the fruit and says, "Here's the pesticides." He's filming in a grocery store. Then he'll go and do other stuff outside. And his content's picking up because he's just doing something a little different. So I think if you want to grow, it's like your question ultimately was like, is there a different strategy for each platform? And there is. But my advice is always don't try to like keep up with the algorithms, because algorithms change every other week. So might as well just post high quality content and do it consistently over time, which in this case is outside or like, different type of settings.
It's funny. When New Year's hit, on New Year's, I said I was going to post a piece of content every single day for 100 days straight. Now, the goal was to obviously push out content, keep myself accountable to pushing out content. But in the bigger picture, it was really to understand the types of content that was working best with my audience. right? And over the span of 100 days, doing all sorts of short tail content, long tail content, doing quotes, doing tips, doing news stories, all this type of stuff, just trying different things. And the content that hit was different on Facebook or on Instagram and TikTok. Very different. It's very tough to get past 200 views on a TikTok, but when it does happen, it totally understand why it happened. And when I created similar content, it did hit. And that's the thing. And it was happened to be news content, newsworthy content, like ChatGPT opens to the internet. That type of content worked really well. Topical content on those platforms. What didn't work well is motivational stuff, which probably with my content, it probably was not produced on the same level that you are, Dylan. But, I think it's a very saturated market for somebody like me trying to talk about motivational content. So I think that's just worth noting is doing testing and understanding what works and what doesn't. Do you put much emphasis on testing, or are you just putting out as much content as possible?
Yeah, I have a pretty robust strategy and research stuff. But what you said is really, really important, which is all these platforms have different stuff and different stuff that works. And I heard, this could just be a rumor, I don't know, but I heard that look, TikTok's owned by China. I heard that they push out motivational, educational content in China, but in the US, they push out dumb, like brain numbing content. So what is brain numbing? Well, news, fake news. So heck, if you want to make fake news, I'm sure that in fact, back when TikTok first came out, this is actually a different account I had of mine. It was like my first TikTok account. I was posting literal fake news. It was just stuff that was Queen of England passed away today, and I'd be like, just kidding, and but stuff like that popped off. And so on the research of content, I use a platform called Rival IQ. It's a little expensive for most people. I think their base plan starts at $100 a month or something. But what I do is their most premium plan has 40 different. You can basically put in 40 competitors. So what I do, I put in Grant, I put in Gary, I put in the Hermosis, I put in Pineda, I put in all the guys that are kind of leaders in this industry. And you can literally see down to all their metrics, how many times a day they're posting on each platform, which video, each week went the most viral. So what we do is my team goes through there every week, every Monday, and they look at the videos from the last 7 days that popped off, and then we just recreate them. And obviously, we're not word for word, but what we're doing is we're modeling what's working, and then we're adding our own spin on it. So let's say, for example, Ryan Pineda says, here's my top 3 favorite watch brands, and he goes like Rolex, this, whatever. I'll be like, here's my top 3 favorite car brands, right? I'm playing off the same idea with my own different kind of narrative.
Good artist copy, great artist steal, in the words of Ty Lopez.
But it's true. Hey, Ty's going through some legal stuff right now. I don't know if I want to model his stuff exactly, but he did kind of create this whole marketing space, and a lot of credit, give credit where credit's due. He is a marketing genius.
Yeah, it's but I mean, the point is that you don't need to go out there and reinvent the wheel with content. There's content out there that's working. All you need to do is put a simple tweak to it and make it your own, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, in terms of the quality of content, because I mean the content on your channels is very high quality. Do you put a lot of emphasis on that? On the high quality content, or can you whip out your phone and do some content once in a while as well? What's your best practices around that?
So for me, it's what's the system that I can do and create content consistently. For me right now, it's just hey, look, I have a studio, I have nice camera gear, all that stuff. So it's I can just put up a camera, record myself, pass it to my team, chop it up, whatever. The thing is for most people, that might not be the method that works. So again, I know what's working, but in order to content's my organic sales is probably 2 to 3% of my entire business from social media. And so for that reason, it's I only allocate a small amount of my time and budget to making it happen. So I know the best practices, what I should be doing. The thing is, if I have to choose quality or quantity, I'm going to choose quantity right now, all day long. Again, the slot machine analogy, how can we get as many pulls of the slot machine as possible? And hopefully the algorithm says, okay, this video is good, let me push it. So yeah, I think that's kind of the way I look at it. But I want to make better content, like talking head style, sitting like blah 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 blah. Like I'm over it. Like the world's over it. Like it's time for a change, and someone's going to shake up the entire digital space once they figure out like what's the next thing. What's the next content that people are going to gravitate to.
100%. And let's talk a bit, and that's a good segue into personal branding again, because I mean, we're just talking about creating content on platforms like Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, whatever it is. But what other elements or other opportunities or avenues are you using for building that personal brand? So for me, I mean, this podcast is a great one, right? Having this podcast and somebody listens to the podcast, and then 3 months down the road, they're now following my blog, and now they're on my email newsletter. And then maybe 6 months down the road, they're becoming a client, and they know me before I even get a chance to know them. What are some avenues that you're using outside of digital to build that personal brand?
So the elements of a personal brand is what you really need is you need people. There's like the know, like, trust thing. I kind of look at it a little bit different, which is like you need people to have rapport with you. You need to have agreement with you, and then they need to be able to have a way to engage with you. So for me, it's like, how do we create relatability in content? Adding story, like I post about my dogs, I post about my house, I post about my family. I'm from Canada. Like, look, we had rapport from that. So try to find ways to create that rapport. Then the second thing is like, what do we agree on? We agree that hockey's cool, other stuff. So basically trying to find, or we agree that marketing, we have similar viewpoints on marketing. Once we kind of figure out what these elements are, then we got to look at like, what's the whole landscape of building a personal brand. So there's like, we talked really only about social media so far, right? TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all that stuff. Within social media, there's short form and long form content. Long form content's the most valuable in the sense of like, I've got in Vegas, there's some like YouTubers that are kind of in the industry, that like the business industry that I'm friends with. These guys can make have a CPM. So basically, how much 1,000 views is worth of 25, even in some cases $45. But then if you look at someone who's in like the industry of like, let's say like a gamer, gamers are lucky to get like a $2 or $3 CPM, meaning the value of the long form content in the business and finance sector is a lot more valuable than pretty much any other industry out there. So that said, it's like long form content on YouTube is super valuable, but most people can't get there and create it. But those are elements of social. Then there's the elements of like podcasting, right? Podcasting is a phenomenal thing. You're doing it. Look, we're connecting because of a podcast. And that's the thing is, so like having a podcast, having a vehicle to be able to create more content, foster relationships, that's an important aspect. And then the third aspect is, by the way, it's a triangle of what we're creating. So the base is social media. For a podcast guest to want to have you on their podcast, you need to have like something to talk about, right? And so for us, like we can talk about social media in this case, but if you're a psychologist, you could be posting content about that, but you need to have that baseline. Then you go up the next level and you're creating podcast content and stuff like this. The third level is getting on stages, getting in front of audiences and tapping into real audiences. Look, if there's an event with, let's say the biggest event I spoke at had 3,000 people at it. 3,000 people paid money to be in that room. Maybe 100 of them got comped a ticket or something, but 2,900 people paid to be in this room. Like, these are people who are committed to personal development, wanting to learn more about like bettering themselves. And those are like the most premium audience that you can get. So once you establish those bottom two, you can do the top one. Now, the result of all of this, you can get more sales, you can build your following. But the most important aspect of it is one that I don't think a lot of people think about. The most important aspect of building a personal brand is that you get to connect with other people who have personal brands. And it's like there's this, this elusive kind of network of people who have personal brands. And for some reason, they get like strategic deal allocations. If there's like an investment, they'll get like, either first dibs, or they'll get like free access to it. It's like all these things happen when you're connecting with these other personal brands. And so I think that's the elevation of building the brand, but really the pinnacle, the goal is like getting in front of real audiences that want to learn from you.
Yeah, a lot of business owners and solopreneurs that I talk to, it's the challenge is getting them to even just put that camera in front of their face in the first place and being comfortable with that. But it's good to get that perspective, Dylan, of that light at the end of the tunnel, which is, eventually you're the subject matter expert, the known, like, and trusted source. It's going to be speaking in front of potentially thousands of people. That's where you want to get them to. But a lot of it starts at just getting that phone in front of their face. And I'm sure you've spoken to people as well are like, oh, I'm not comfortable with creating content that's not really me. Well, what do you say to those people?
So if I look at my social media insights right now, let's say, for example, I'll go to Instagram and I'll just go ahead and tap on it right now. So over the last 30 days, I've had 479,000 people see my stuff, and 470,000 of them are following me, or sorry, are not following me. What that means is only 9,000 people who saw my stuff in the last 30 days follow me. I have 140,000 some odd followers on Instagram. That's like what, like 7%. So what's happening is people that follow me, people don't care. Like, people are so focused on their own life, they literally don't give a crap about you. My biggest roadblock getting started was like, oh my God, what's that girl from high school that I had a crush on like 8 years ago gonna think about this content I'm posting? Like, and then I was like creating this secondary account, like kind of putting like a stage name on Dylan. I was gonna like name myself like, like Dylan Marketing or some, I don't know, some stupid stuff. And then I'm like, this exact fear of mine is the exact reason I should lean into it. Because what happens is I'll just constantly be running away from this little fear of like what people are going to think. And so if someone's thinking that, like, it's an opportunity to lean in, get out, grow outside your comfort zone. And and really the fact of the matter is no one's going to care anyways. So it doesn't really matter, but it's an opportunity for that individual to grow.
That's awesome. And then that's a great way to put it, right? And it's so true that you're reaching a lot more people that don't know you than actually know you in a lot of cases with the algorithms nowadays. And that's the big opportunity for sure. Now, Dylan, I got to hit you with this one because you had a great piece of content on your Instagram feed that I saw that spoke to this specific topic. And I'm sure our audience would love to get your feedback on those 3 simple strategies to generating millions in revenue.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you mentioned it. So like, sometimes I talk and I'm like, do you remember the 3 strategies were? Cause I'm like, I can like pull it up real quick.
This is great because this is exactly the point that we're talking about here is you don't need to be perfect with every single piece of content. It's quantity over quality, right? Just get the content out there as much as possible. And I mean, I do it as well. Like, there's a piece of content I created the other day around Bing ads. And it's like, I can't even remember the context of it because I've done about 12 pieces of content since that piece of content, but that's the thing is it's almost like it's effortless now. It's just like picking up the phone, creating the content, putting on the camera, creating the content, sitting here on the podcast, creating more content. Right.
So yeah. And I love that, by the way. Like, there's the world's changing every day. Like, you said you're capitalizing on news content. Like, that's awesome. But like, you're not going to remember what you posted. Like, sometimes people say like, oh, I love that post. And in fact, the one you mentioned, I've heard that from multiple people. I think it was value heavy. That's why I've heard it from a few people. But if I were to say, here's like the 3 steps to make millions, like, one, like, I'll just explain how I did it. My first 3,000 customers, I didn't spend $1 on ads. I went out and found people that had a network of potential customers, and I gave them $100 million offer. I gave them an insane no-brainer thing, which is, hey, I'm going to give all your customers a free product of mine. I'm going to go ahead and pay you $10 for every person that signs up, and I'm going to go ahead and give you 15% on the back end of anything that person buys from me in the future. And the thought on that is what? Well, if I were to go buy leads from Facebook, I'm going to pay $10, $15 a lead anyways. And then I'm going to have to filter through them and find out people who are interested. In this case, these people are already interested in the product I have. And instead of me paying Facebook, I'm paying one of my friends. Like, it's kind of a cool no-brainer deal. And then from that, I take those people, I put them into my ecosystem. I continue to build trust over time by giving more value than I'm ever trying to take. And at the end of the day, the third step is if, they want to buy something from me, I just present them, the opportunity to work with me, and it's up to them. It's their choice. And so that's probably not what the video said, but if I were to
that's better, I think.
Okay, cool.
No, because it's so true. Network is your net worth. Is that the cliche? And it's like, leveraging the network that you have, right? Yeah. So like leverage the network that you have. And like you said, you know, the first step was not even focused or fixated on paid ads and running or trying to drive a following, right? It's using the people within your network to start that business and to grow it. You know, Dylan, we could talk here, I'm sure, for forever. But you know, I do want to obviously be cognizant of your time, but maybe you can let our audience know what's the best way for them to get in touch with you if they have any questions.
Yeah, honestly, Instagram's the best. Everything pretty much gets filtered to me now before it hits me. But Instagram, I read pretty much all the messages that come through. So Dylan Vanas, DYLAN VANAS, for those listening, and that's on Instagram. So would love to hear from you.
Yeah, catch that link in the show notes as well. And Dylan, we end every episode with the same question. That question is this: if you can choose one person, dead or alive, to represent your brands, who would it be and why?
First thought that came to mind was Steve Jobs, but then I kind of like went in because I'm like that's like the thing that a lot of people's first thought is, because of how amazing marketer he is, and then it went into Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill was the first person. Think and Grow Rich was the first personal development book I ever read, and the way that he thought of things in the 1930s is even ahead of a lot of the way people think today. I read Think and Grow Rich, and then like the most underrated book is Outwitting the Devil, and it really is two amazing books. And so it'd be cool to have someone like old school, like I have on my Audible account, like a 35-hour just collection of his talks, and it's just like like what you say today is everything tomorrow. It's like I'm like I wish I could have someone talk like that to me and my employees and my company every day. So
Hey, I bet you AI can do that for you.
yeah, let's get going on that. That's a
That's
good idea.
cool. That's awesome. Great one. I love Napoleon Hill. Great book, Think and Grow Rich. Awesome answers. Thanks a lot, Dylan. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
And we